Hello and welcome back to Space Engineers. In today's video, we're looking at another small fighter, once again with folding wings. So this thing is called the AUC STI 234, or the Small Tactical Interceptor, which is this lovely thing that I'm currently driving. So this features 4 wings, all of them on rotors, and they can very subtly just fold together into a horizontal line, make it much more neater and much more easier to tuck away once it's landed down on your base. For a very small demonstration, bring up the HUD, undoing number 2, pressing number 3, and there we are, that's all it does. If we were to move the camera slightly down so we can face them like so, pressing number 3 again, and then just fold all the way up into a slight diagonal or slight crisscross to the opposite side. Looking at it like so, we'll do it one more time, and there they are, and there they go. Locking that back in place, coming all the way up here, and have a look at it like this. So what this ship actually is a small fighter that uses gatling guns, autocannons, and rocket launchers to blast your enemies with. The gatling guns and autocannons being linked up to a master container system, a medium cargo container for you to store all the ammunition inside. The 4 rocket launchers on each of the wings are manual reload only, so do use them sparingly, or just save them for an emergency where you do need to just absolutely annihilate your target. This ship uses both atmospheric and hydrogen thrusters, but it is primarily hydrogen thrusters. It only has an atmospheric thruster below the ship to help it while it's on a planet, and it also comes with a camera on top, beacons, antenna, and all of that. So press the F10 and find the Spawn menu. The Small Tactical Interceptor is 643 small blocks, using the Decorative Block number 1 and number 3, the Automatons Warfare 2 Heavy Industry and Wasteland DLC packs. We see here its affiliation, ship series, ship class, the registration, ship name, and designation. Coming all the way down here, we then have a lovely piece of lore about the ship, what it is and what its purpose is. And all the way down here, we've got even more lore all about it. At the very bottom, we then got specification showing its PCU, which is always nice to have. So simply give this a thumbs up, move around towards the very front, have a quick look around the outside. Then we can drive around for a bit, see what it has to offer, and there should be some space pirates in the distance. There is a salvage station. I'll go and shoot that up to test out all the weapons and what this thing is capable of in my terrible combat hands. So at the very front, for the Small Tactical Interceptor, this is what we get, and that's an industrial cockpit to drive this thing around with a top-mounted camera on top so we get a good view of what's going on and precisely aim all of our guns. Coming down slightly, then on the left and right hand side, we've got a bunch of hydrogen thrusters to help slow this thing down, as well as 2 gatling guns to blast your enemies with. Surrounding them, and of course the hydrogen thrusters below the cockpit, we then got some heavy armoured panels, just give it some extra protection from any kind of stray shots coming from the side. Then up to here and above our gatling guns, we then got some heat vents, one on both sides, for an extra bit of decoration. If we move across over to this part, we then got our autocannon, one on both sides, once again connected up to our master container system. Then we've got our 2 wings, angled fire hinges or controlled fire hinges, that just comes across from some steel blocks on some light armoured panels, with some heavy armoured panels mixed in as well. That's where our rocket launchers are sitting. If we turn and face this onto the side, turning off my light, there we go, that simply has been set up. So that right there is our heavy armoured panels, and behind it we then got some light armoured panels and our light steel blocks. Putting my light on, moving across onto the side, to the way I turn that off. There we are, there's a clear view at our autocannon on the side. There's our rocket launchers. Over here is our red lights that currently blink. Then getting a bit closer over here, looking inside, we then see a gyroscope, a hydrogen thruster, and there's our hinges to angle our wings. Come around towards the very back. Once again, we've got some more heavy armoured panels just covering up the base of these hydrogen thrusters for the back. And around towards the very back here, this is what's going to push around and give us a nice lot of speed. So we've got 1 large hydrogen thruster, we then got 6 small ones, which should prove very useful when escaping your enemies or going for a more shoot and scoot style. We also see a lovely white glow right below here next to our magnetic plate to climb ourselves down on. In fact, while we're here, we must go all the way down underneath it. So here we come all the way down. There's a clear view of our hinges for our wings on each side. There's some more gyroscopes. Over here, we've got some fantastic use of a column and a road ahead for a bit of decoration. And of course, how it's been connected up to that hinge, then onto the main body. Over here and over to this part, we then got some scaffold blocks, just covering up the bottoms of some hydrogen tanks, which are very much needed to keep this thing moving around and while operating for a nice long time. There's our lone atmospheric thruster to keep us off the ground while on a planet. There's some more offset spotlights facing towards the front. We just about make out our hydrogen thrusters at the very front of the ship, but they're sort of being covered up by the armoured panels just right over here. Then of course there's our gatling guns, and there's the bottom of our cockpit. Let's come all the way up and look down this thing. There we go, camera's a bit wibbly wobbly, but here we are. There's an antenna facing backwards. We've got another hydrogen thruster to help move us down. Right in front of that is our small compact beacon. And once again, we see our hinges for our wings. we then see the tops of our hydrogen tanks, and a bunch of different blocks, the dark grey, light grey, and white, just going all the way across the main body of this vehicle. Moving towards the front. There we go, there's our top mounted camera, and there is the cockpit at the very front, which is where I'm currently sitting. And there we are! That's a brief look around the outside, and for a small fighter it looks bloody fantastic with its overall setup. I do absolutely love wings that have folding parts on them, especially when they've been angled like so. It does add a lot more, and sort of break up the more blockier look that a lot of ships tend to go for. Yes, grab hold of my character, bring up the HUD, tab number 1, these are the controls we get, where as you can expect, number 1 is going to be to turn on and off our hydrogen thrusters all around the ship, so we can no longer fly this thing around, but if we were on a planet, we can still move this up, thanks to that lone atmospheric thruster right there. Turning them back on, number 2, number 3 is what we talked about for our wings, where number 2 is our rotor lock, or our hinge lock in fact, so we now turn that on and off, so we press number 3, then fold all the way down, and fold all the way up. Once we're ready, we now press number 2, lock them in place, so now Clang will not be tempted to blow up this vehicle. Number 4 is in a very odd control, which you see quite often on land vehicles as well, but this locks your gyroscope, so instead of being able to move it around like so, and yes, this thing is exceptionally lightweight and floaty with its overall controls, because press number 4, then move it around, despite me moving the mouse, nothing is going to happen, so now we can just move around in 4 directions, which is there if you want to not have it wander around, if say you've got a very wandering mouse. Turn it back on, press number 6 if you're top mounted camera so we can get a good view of what's going on, and there's our target for the end of the video. Coming out of that, pressing number 7, that's for your gatling guns right beside your cockpit, find them both together. Number 8 is then for the same for your autocannons, there we go. And then number 9 is for all 4 rocket launches at the same time, still a nice lot of damage. Now if you wanted to, with those rocket launchers, means it isn't connected up to a container system, so not using the actual reloadable rocket launchers, it might be a good idea to put a programmable block on this and have the salvage script, make sure you find them on a 1, 2, 3, 4 pattern to minimize the amount of rockets you're actually firing, and of course to save on ammunition you need to get out and manually load them up. And up to tab number 2 we then got our beacon on and off, our antenna on and off, then over to here is a block that I'm not too familiar with, but it's an action relay, and you can toggle it on and off. Not actually too sure what it does on this ship, or what it uses. It is on by default, but I couldn't actually see what it was using, even when I went through the control panel, so I'm just going to leave it as such and have it turned off. As for that is the controls, so now time to try this thing around to see how it handles. So making sure I don't lose line of sight of those space pirates in the distance, just making sure they are still there, yes they are. Here we go, moving forwards, and as you can expect, we are bloody fast thanks to all those thrusters at the back. Coming to a stop, we are a little bit slower, but it's not too bad at the end of the day, and if we do need to stop a lot quicker, we can do a 180, but I'm not going to do that, just in case the space pirates do decide to despawn when I turn away. Moving left, and moving right compared to forwards and backwards, we are exceptionally slow with that, so we are going to be heavily reliant on our gyroscope to move this thing around, and of course turning around, boosting with those thrusters at the back there to make sharp turns. Moving down, we've got 1 thruster, so again we are very slow with that. Moving up, we're going to be a lot better because we can fly on a planet, there we go. Then as for gyroscope controls, as you saw, moving this thing around, this thing is so floaty that it has no weight on here whatsoever. In fact, it's one of the worst ships I've ever flown in this game in terms of actually having no weight on this. It's just a tiny flick of the mouse. It just goes absolutely everywhere. It makes it absolutely painful to aim the guns on top. So I was trying to aim over there at a long distance snipe. It's really hard to get that reticle onto the target. Try and shoot them, but luckily we do have to aim from that distance, and you can always turn down the gyroscopes if you do not want to have it so overly floaty. So over to here, we now come into here, select our gyroscopes, and then turn down the power just a little bit. There we go, that's a bit better. Still retains a lot of the controls it has, now it is a lot easier to actually aim on a target. Anyway, hopping out here, third person view, so all that's left to do is now to finally come over to those space pirates and shoot it up with all of our guns. So I'll cut back with them a bit closer, and ready to engage. So here we are now approaching the space pirate salvage station, coming to the camera so we can see what kind of armaments they have equipped on this. So there we are, we can see they've got a couple of gatling guns down there and up there. Whoop, it was still a bit floaty with the controls, despite me turning down, but there is a exposed hydrogen tank, that is what I want to shoot. So switching over to the rocket launchers, these might be within range. I can't actually remember the range of the rocket launchers, it's been quite a long time since I've used them. Now I can start blasting straight into it, and hopefully it'll do a nice lot of damage. Coming to a stop, is that actually going to hit into it? I don't think so, I think it is exploding right in front of it. Switching over to the autocannons, and letting the smoke clear. And yes, they were exploding right in front of it. So shooting the guns. I still think we are slightly too far away, so getting a bit closer. I want to be quite careful not to go 800 meters or even 600 meters close to this because their guns will engage with me. So that should be good enough. Aiming to that hydrogen tank. Here we go one more time. And hopefully that is going to deal some damage, maybe not. Maybe I've got to get even closer. So here we go, we're now going to get a bit closer like so. There's another space bar right in the distance just flicked in there. I'm going to shoot straight into there. Hopefully I can actually get the signal. There we are, we're now hitting into that. Anytime now, we're now going to explode that hydrogen tank. Their gatling gun has engaged, trying to reverse this up slightly. Switching over to the rocket launchers, firing into one more time. It's smoking. Hopefully I can make it explode with these. And there we go, there was a giant explosion. There goes all the station. And it looks like I have completely crippled that station with that one explosion. And it was generally really worth me targeting that hydrogen tank rather than the guns. So they are now just completely disabled. And it looks like I have destroyed the guns as well. In fact, there's guns right there. I'm not sure if it will actually engage me or not if I get a bit closer. But I suppose I can actually do that to finish off this video. So here we come all the way across it, out of this camera, moving a bit closer. And hopefully I can actually make this move. I'm not too sure what has happened. It looks like I have lost my hydrogen tanks. They have been destroyed because my hydrogen thrusters are not working. So despite me disabling that station, I myself have been completely disabled and can no longer move this thing around. So what I will do is spawn in a brand new one, then fly all the way up to it, crash into it, and that'll be that for this video. So there's that station, aiming all the way towards it with the camera. There we go. And then in a few seconds now, go and explode straight into it, and that'll be that. Yes, it did a fantastic job against the station for disabling it. It did help a lot having that exposed hydrogen tank. And there we go, I've now infiltrated the station and ready to salvage it. Yes, as I was saying, it did really help having that exposed hydrogen tank, making the whole station split in half. As it stands, it'll do very well for some light combat against a much smaller station, or a much smaller ship, or even just a much larger ship that you can't get the jump on, or they do not have guns surrounding all the ship, like on the back. Having a few interior turrets here and there, because that will be the end of a small fighter in general. But as for that, that's a fantastic little fighter to use in your world. If you do want to have a small fighter with folding wings, then it does look like it is going way into the distance on its own little adventure. Anyway, there'll be a link to the description below if you wish to download and play around yourself, as well as links to Skybox I'm currently using, and I'll be back with another video some point soon. Bye bye.